Hello and welcome to the Healing Insight podcast, episode 21, with me, Sarah Hunt.
And me, Jez Hunt.
And here we are again. How are you, Jez? Are you enjoying this beautiful hot weather that we've been having recently?
Yes and no. Typical
Oh
English
dear.
answer. No, I'm loving the hot weather and it not being quite so cold and rainy all the time. But I'm also missing the rain because I like it being a bit cooler. Although, to be fair, here up in Leicestershire, it is actually Leicestershire. I went West Country
Sorry.
accent to go Leicestershire. That's not quite right, is it?
No.
Yes, it's a bit cooler today. We've got a bit breeze and well, they threatened drizzle, but we've not had drizzle, but we have had a breeze. So
Well, we've got cloud today, and it was trying to rain a few minutes ago. We could do with the rain. It'll help my potatoes that I'm growing. I'm having a try out uh, growing my own potatoes this year.
well done.
I know. And they're growing.
Well,
Yeah,
that
I'm quite
helps.
impressed.
Excellent, excellent. Well, there's a lot of responsibility in growing potatoes, isn't there?
There definitely is. You have to remember to water them,
Exactly.
apart from anything else. But yes, and responsibility is our topic for today, and I think it's a really important topic. It does lead on from what we were talking about last time about empowerment. And kind of links into that and some of the other podcasts that we've done. And responsibility is something that is really key for all of us. And it's something that has kept being flagged up to me recently, particularly by the beings of pure love and pure light that I work with. And they keep flagging it up to me. People need to take responsibility. You need to take responsibility. And it's like, okay, I've got the message. Okay. So that's why I thought it would be a good idea to have a look at responsibility today and really come to understand it, because it's got more than one meaning, really, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yeah. What just came to mind when you were talking then was I think there's a good distinction in between life happens to you and life happens for you.
Ooh.
And if we take the approach that life happens to you, then you are potentially shirking responsibility for what happens in your life and what you actually want to achieve and what you're here to do and all those things that we have talked about previously. Whereas if you have the focus that life happens for you, then you are taking responsibility and embracing those things that happen with the understanding that they are happening for a reason. There is a lesson there. There is a something to learn, something to enjoy, rather than going down that whole, oh no, that's just happened and my life's rubbish, and because that's to me shirking responsibility.
Absolutely. And I think when we were talking about empowerment, we were talking about how we give our power away, and with that goes responsibility. And we need to actually take that responsibility back, because the only person that's going to make you happy is you. The only person that knows what's right for you is you. And for those of you that have seen my newsletter for this month, I've actually talked about it. Your soul knows what's right for you. And this is about going inward, recognizing that we're responsible for ourselves. We're responsible for everything that happens. And, even the stuff that we consider to be bad has learning.
Yes.
And I like to look at it that we are in a school of learning while we're on this journey on earth. And we have this opportunity to learn so much about ourselves, to learn so much about so many different things. But to really get that learning, we have to go inside. We have to recognize that it's our responsibility and that we've agreed to these things. We've allowed these things to happen. And we have to take responsibility for our part in that.
Yeah. like you said, no one else can make us happy. You know, so yes, being with someone, we can have happy feelings being with that person or going to a particular place, or but if we could go to the same place with the same person, if we're in a grump or feeling down or depressed or anxious, or that will affect whether we're happy or not. So it's where we are that matters in terms of what we're feeling and what we're doing, rather than necessarily somebody else. So they can assist us to change our mood, for example,
Yeah.
but they're not responsible for it. And the trouble, and going back to the life happens to you, life happens for you, then, oh, well, that person made me unhappy. No, you chose to be, and that boils down to choice, doesn't it? But you
Yeah.
chose to be unhappy. That person may have triggered something in you that then triggered that dialogue or the energetic feeling or whatever it was that you then took to mean that you felt unhappy. But it wasn't the person that actually did it. You did it yourself, to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel that, we get things triggered in us, and often people don't understand what's actually going on. And that's why it's kind of that outward, he did this to me, she did that to me, that it's their fault that I'm not happy.
Yeah.
What people aren't understanding is what those people are doing are coming in and either reflecting something to you that you need to address yourself, or they are triggering something in you that needs bringing to your attention to be addressed. And the only way you can truly address it is to go inwards and go, okay, why am I feeling like this? What is it that I need to do? And this is about taking responsibility for how you're feeling. It's taking responsibility for your own health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really, really important part of a healing journey.
Yeah. The beauty of it is that once you understand that it is actually in your control,
Yes.
then that changes everything. That can change everything. You know, once you get, so if someone's upsetting you, someone's doing things that upset you, that trigger you, if you just take that step back, saying, well, hang on a minute, I can actually control how I feel about this. And you change your attitude, and you know, even if it's a case of saying to yourself, well, that person's stuff is their own stuff. It's not my stuff, it's their stuff. So they are projecting onto me, or they are reflecting to me, or whatever it is that comes up for you in that moment. But you can change in an instant, in certain circumstances, how you feel about something, which means you can change your mood, you can change your energy, you can change your vibration, raise your vibration
Mm.
very easily, which changes the dynamic of what's actually happening. So when you understand that it is in your control, then, like I said, that changes everything, or potentially does, if you really embrace that and go with it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. Um, I think also as well, it's recognizing that if you have given responsibility away to others, so that's parents, colleagues, whoever it might be, um, on a subconscious level, you can actually ask for that responsibility to be given back to you, so that you empower yourself to reach your true potential. And that's something I do with clients sometimes, and I've done recently with students, and I've done myself, is to actually say, actually, you know what, that's my responsibility, not yours. I'm going to ask for that back. And I do it on a subconscious level. I just put the thought out to the person or the group of people and say, that's actually my responsibility. So please give that responsibility back to me, because that way, then on that subconscious level, I'm saying, yeah, I'm taking responsibility for myself, my actions, this whole scenario, or my part in this whole scenario. And that then takes a weight off the people that have kind of perhaps taken on board stuff that they shouldn't have done, that wasn't theirs to carry, if you like.
Yeah, yeah.
And it feels to me like it's a really important thing to do on a subconscious level, because you're telling the universe, yourself then as well, I'm taking responsibility. I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for my actions. I'm responsible for my healing journey. I'm responsible for my work journey. I'm responsible for my part in my relationships, in my, whether that's intimate relationships or whether that's family relationships or friendships. And I just feel that, it's something that's been so highlighted to me recently. It's so important that we recognize that we are responsible for ourselves.
Yeah, well, we're born into this life as a sovereign being. We're born into this life with our own responsibility. The way that life is in human form, in the way that society is, certainly this country, as children, we learn to give our responsibility to our parents. Our parents make decisions for us. And because of the way we're brought up and societal pressures, I guess, we that's the norm. Well, how many times have we heard, well, I'm your parent, I'm your mum, so you just do what I say, rather than actually allowing that child to express themselves and actually have dialogue with them, maybe at their level, but have dialogue with them to allow them that chance to grow and that chance to express their opinion on something, or take responsibility for something. And yet, as parents, we can, and I've done it with Robbie,
Me too.
So I don't so much now because he's taller than me, um, but actually, if you then look, so even from parents, so when children then go to school, responsibilities given to the teachers, or the child assumes that the teacher knows better than them because they're adults, because that's what the child's been taught. And then you go into you go and get a job, so you have a boss. Well, that boss is more responsible than you, so you have to do what the. So all the way along our lives, we are taught to give our responsibility away.
Mm.
At pretty much every stage, it's reinforced. And it's only when we start either possibly go self-employed, as I did, as you did, when actually, oh dear, I haven't got any, well, not oh dear, but I haven't got any responsibility. I haven't got to answer to anyone except myself here. Well, actually, it is an oh dear, because you've got yourself to answer to, and
Well,
you're.
it kind of makes you, though, doesn't it? Don't you think it really makes you look at what you're doing and what's important with your work life, and with the business that you're running, when you go self-employed like that, because there is only you.
Yes.
There is only you that can do that. And then I kind of like to translate that into the rest of my life. And what I've really, really come to understand is when we take back responsibility for ourselves and then start to reconnect with ourselves and our soul properly, we we suddenly start to fine tune our intuition so that we can understand what it is our soul wants. But if we are constantly giving away responsibility, then we don't see the signs. We don't hear what our soul's trying to tell us. We don't pick up what's important because we've pushed everything away from us instead of going, okay, this is my responsibility. Okay, so I need to sit quietly for a moment. I've got a big decision to make. I need to look at things from all angles. I need to feel it. I need to what is it that's right for me. But often what we've done, and I've certainly done this, is I wonder about that job. Is that job good for me? What do you reckon? Do you think I could do that job? And
Mm-hmm.
I've certainly been down that route in the past. And instead of actually going inward and going, okay, does this feel right for me to do? Is this where I need to be? Is this what I need to be doing?
Mm.
Does that make sense? So we all need to learn to go inward a lot more. We all need to learn to listen to our bodies, listen to the way that we're given information that will help us to make the decisions that are right for us, that will help us to step into the flow of life, that will help us to move forward properly. And I've heard people saying, "Oh, she's holding me back," or "He's holding me back," and I've certainly witnessed that in corporate life scenarios where somebody said, "Oh, I don't get that I keep applying for promotion and I'm being held back and la la la." But when you actually can take that step back, you and go inward, what you'll discover is it's you holding you back. And so you're putting the wrong energy out. And because you're putting the wrong energy out, you're overlooked because you perhaps don't feel good enough. You perhaps don't feel you've got the skills. And so on a subconscious and an energetic level, you're putting that energy out. And so that'll get picked up on. And then it'll feel like you're being held back, but actually you're not by other people, just
Yeah,
by yourself.
it's easier. It's easy to blame somebody else.
Yes, and
It
we've been in a blame culture for a very long time, haven't we?
absolutely.
It's like it's his fault, it's her fault.
Yeah.
Actually, that one thing I was taught as a child, which I've always remembered, is when you're pointing a finger at somebody, the thumb's pointing with it, but you've got three fingers pointing back at you, and it's a reminder. Whenever you're pushing blame over to somebody else, actually you need to look at yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's we it's just so easy to do, and it's so hard, or can be hard until you learn to do it, I guess, but it can be so hard to actually just say, well, okay, what in this part have I got control over? You know, so like you're saying, in a corporate life, even in a part in a relationship, how many times have you heard the phrase, oh, my other half, or my better half, or my, just using those words, you're giving your power away to somebody else. You're saying, I am not 100% me. I am not 100% being without that person, which is absolutely wrong. We are all individually 100% us. And yeah, in a relationship, it might be more fun with somebody else. It might be, but it doesn't need or shouldn't need somebody else to complete us.
Absolutely. And in actual fact, to me, an intimate relationship is you're on your own journey, but you're sharing part of that journey, not all of it, part of that journey with the other person. So there'll be some things that you've agreed to learn together, but there'll be other things that each of you need to do for yourselves. And so you can't be codependent. If you're codependent, then then you're not allowing yourself to be your true authentic self. And
Yeah.
you need to be looking at what's going on here. Why do I refer to my partner as my other half or my better half? What is it in me that I need to address that will change that for me?
Yeah. Taking just just taking responsibility. It is that, what I do and what I choose to do is down to me. Yes, we have to be aware of other people that may be involved in the decisions or they may be affected by the influence of the decisions we make. But it's not our responsibility, other than general morals of not intentionally harming somebody, intentionally trying to hurt them. But it's not our place to make sure that they're okay before we are. So for example, if I say something that upsets you, then that doesn't mean I've done it intentionally, but your reaction and how you choose to react or respond to what I've said or done is your responsibility. So it's not my responsibility to make sure you're okay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear here. So yes, I have a moral, and because of the person I am, I wouldn't want to intentionally harm you or hurt you or upset you. But if I say something that does trigger something in you, then it's not my responsibility to sort that out for you, to try and mend you, to try and fix it.
No,
Because
absolutely. Our responsibility when we're talking to other people or around other people is to make sure that we are as heart-centered as possible.
yes,
So whenever we are delivering something to somebody that we need to tell them, we need to do it from as a heart-centered way as possible. That way we've taken responsibility for what we're actually saying. But that's kind of where it stops
yeah,
in my understanding, because how you then respond or react is down to whether what I've brought to your attention has triggered something in you from your past, whether something else has upset you, you've had an argument, you've had a boss that's expecting you to work miracles, and you don't know which way to turn, or something else has gone on when the children has played up, and you look at what has been said or sent to you in an email or a text or whatever, and you react to it instead of responding.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that I've done something, but often people will say, oh, you upset me. But no, actually, I've done that from a heart-led point of view. So my responsibility was to deliver that information to you in as kind a way as possible, in as loving a way as possible. I'm not then responsible for how you respond to that information.
Yes. That's
Does that
kind
make
of, yeah,
sense?
that's sort of what I meant. So yeah, that's good.
Okay, so responsibility is where, we kind of know what responsibility is in that we are responsible for our thoughts, words, actions, etc. But responsibility is also your response ability.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh. This is one that I did with my students a while back, and I think it's worth looking at because this comes to the respond and react kind of thing. And when we are responsible for ourselves and responsible for all our actions, we need to be responding rather than reacting
Yes.
to things. And so that's our response ability is really about our ability to stand back if something's upsetting us, not react to it, look at what's going on, deal with the issues for ourselves, and then respond.
Yeah. I like that. We've talked about response versus reaction before, and it is so important to just take that step back, even if it is just for a few seconds before responding to somebody, rather than that initial fiery reaction that we can have in certain circumstances. Apart from anything else, if we react to something, then we're not necessarily understanding exactly what's going on. So we can react in a way that actually inflames a situation because we've reacted to something where we've interpreted what they've just said or done. We haven't fully understood where they were coming from, or we haven't tried to understand where they're coming from. We've just assumed that they've meant something, and then we are reacting to that, whether they meant that or not, whether that was the intention or not. And do you look at a lot of arguments, certainly quite a few that I've had over the years, I guess, is down to that reaction or not seeking to understand before making a response to it. And, it's not about, I'll go and walk out and sit outside for half an hour and come up with a response before coming back into it. It only takes a few seconds. It's breaking the state. It's breaking the momentum, the energetic momentum you're in that moment, to just, even if it is just taking one big deep breath, just,
Yeah.
right, what's actually going on here? It can happen in seconds, microseconds, but
Yeah.
it's just enough to give yourself that break of, right, what is actually happening here? What is it this person's trying to say? And if necessary, just pause and say, okay, I've just heard you say that, but what actually do you mean? Do you mean X, or do you mean Y, or do you mean something completely different?
Yeah, because our responsibility comes back to our reference points, which I think we talked about
Yes.
before. And our reference points relate to all the experiences that we've ever had. And so my reference points are very different to your reference points. And what that does then is affect perception. And so my perception of what you're trying to communicate to me might be very different to what you're actually trying to communicate to me. And if we don't actually have a discussion about whatever it might be, then my response ability is going to come from the wrong place, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm not able to respond effectively if I haven't fully understood things because it's triggered something in me that relates to something in my childhood or whatever, or it's just a complete misunderstanding of things.
Yeah. How many times, well, okay, I can only speak for me, but how many times have I sent a message or said something out loud after a dialogue that's gone on in my head that the sentence or the text is part of which the person receiving it only gets the part that they've been given, not the dialogue that happened in my head prior to that. So they've only got that one part of it. I mean, I've said some really hilarious things in my life. I mean, we're talking stand-up comedic value,
Have you missed your vocation?
which which in my head and the bit before the punchline or the bit that I said out loud was brilliant, and yet the delivery of it, the person only got the bit they got of it, and it's just like, what? And it's like, no. The point, possibly a little bit laughable, but the point is that if we want to communicate to somebody, our responsibility to allow your responsibility is to make sure that what I'm delivering to you is as clear as I can make it, rather than just assuming that you're going to understand, because in my head I've been having this conversation, so you must know what's going on, and yet you only get the bit that I send you, not the bit that's happened in my head, which in my mind in that moment is, it's kind of like, well, I've said it, we've had this conversation. Well, we haven't, it's happened in here.
Yeah.
But that then affects your ability to respond to me, because you only have the limited information I've just given you linked to or connected to the reference points that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely a topic that is really important to kind of think about, isn't it? And to recognize responsibility and responsibility. And it's, there's it's two important areas that link to one word, and it's understanding the importance of it. I feel is and as we go forward, there's a lot of energetic shifts going on. There's a lot of changes going on with the world, and we are moving into a much more heart-centered way of being and heart-led way of being. And therefore, to be able to be that true sovereign being that we are, we need to take back responsibility for ourselves
We
and for our
do.
actions and for our words and even our thoughts as well, because everything's energy. We put a thought out about somebody, about something, that's an energy that's going out and is picked up on some level. So it's really important for us to understand that we are responsible for ourselves. We are fully responsible, and we need to give that responsibility back to our children as well. They
Yes.
need to take responsibility. And I remember Alice at 15, she must have been about 15, she was getting herself into some right old pickles, as teenagers do. And I was trying to guide her, but she saw it as me trying to be telling her what to do and being controlling. And I remember her turning around to me and saying, "Mum, it's my mess. I have to sort it out." And that, it kind of really woke me up to, actually, yeah, you do. Because if I try and sort it out for you, you're never going to learn.
Yeah. And I think
And
that's one of the hardest things as a parent is seeing your child run headlong into what we would regard as a mistake, but you kind of have to let them do it. I mean, depending what it is. I mean,
well, obviously, if there's something life threatening,
yeah.
then
I
yeah,
mean,
you
if
do have
yeah,
to. But yeah, but often part of our learning is to make a, and I've got my air
air
quotes here,
quotes. Yeah,
is to make a mistake. Um, and that's how we learn.
Absolutely.
And it's an important part of growth.
Yes.
But for us to be able to grow properly and truly develop, as people, as the spiritual beings that we are, that are having the human experience, we need to take that responsibility,
Yeah.
and we need to take full responsibility for ourselves, for our actions, for our words, and that way, then we allow ourselves to grow as we move forward.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow.
So, wow, that was a really interesting discussion. I really enjoyed that. So, yeah, a lot to think about. And for the listeners, if you recognise that you've given responsibility away, then you can just sit quietly and just ask that that responsibility is brought back to you. Just say that you're ready and you're willing to accept that responsibility for yourself, for your actions, for whatever it happens to be, and take it back from all those people that you have given it away to. And that will help you to develop and grow and move forward.
Yeah. And something else you can do if you're not sure where you've given away responsibility is if something triggers you, you can journal on it and just journal on what was my responsibility in this situation to get an understanding. Because once you start understanding your part in responsibility, your part of your own responsibility, once you start understanding it and then you start recognizing it, it becomes easier to see, which means you can actually deal with it sooner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all good stuff.
Fabulous. Okay, then. Thank you very much. Great to have some time chatting with you again, and look forward to the next session with you, Jenny. And so it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.